Hey guys, Elle here. Got another tarot deck review for you. And the next probably 3 or 4 decks that I am going to be reviewing are all decks that adhere to a Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. I know I've been hearing from a lot of you guys, how cool some of the decks I've been reviewing are and that they're beautiful. However, they're just not, they're not for you. They don't follow your tradition, the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. But I have a lot of decks that do, and this is my most recent purchase, actually. I just got this guy. He has been on my wish list for years. I'm so happy I finally tracked it down. And it's, of course, the Victoria Regina Tarot. Oh my god! Freaking out a little bit. It originally came out in 2002. It was put out by Llewellyn. And it had sort of a good run, and then it just went out of print. And it can be a little bit hard to track down right now. I do see it up on eBay all the time. I was sort of waiting to find like a really good price for it. I see them go for over $100 all the time. And this one I was able to snag for about $75. I've seen it go a little bit cheaper, maybe around $60 or so, but it will be probably an investment unless you get your hands on it in a trade or something like that. I think it'd be awesome if they brought this deck back in print, because the demand for it in like the tarot community, it's become this like prized collector's item almost, and with good reason. It's a unique, beautiful deck that is really accessible for people because it does follow the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition very, very closely. So what this deck is really, it's a collage deck. It's a black and white collage deck. Utilizing images from the Victorian era, that's like late 1800s, 19th century commercial engravings. And then she collaged these images all together. So what you get when you get this beautiful set is it comes, I mean, if you can only get your hands on the card, shit, go for it. The book is meaty and really good though, so if you can get the whole thing together, I highly recommend it. I didn't get the box with mine, and I had heard from a lot of other people's reviews and other people who have this deck that the box, I think it was just a tuck box, whatever it was though, whatever size it was, it's very sort of flimsy and falls apart, so it's really hard to find the box for this deck when you're buying it secondhand. It tends to have like disintegrated over time, I guess. So I didn't get the box with it, but everything else that you see here is actually what originally came with the set. This beautiful blue, thick, velvety bag with the tassels actually came with the set at first, and so did this amazingly thick book. Look at that, and that's sort of what the cards look like. So here, let me give you a little flip through here. You get a little intro to to the history behind the deck here in the beginning, a little bit of information about the Victorian era and what was going on in England at the time. But you know what, it's not so much history that it's like, I don't give a shit, I just want to learn tarot. It's really not, it's not that much. It's just enough to sort of pique your interest and set the landscape for this deck, And then you have like really big representations of the card here. She writes a little description about the card, and then she gives you a great interpretation. There's even this one little section, can you see that? It says this is the High Priestess. And there's this little paragraph called The High Priestess in Your Life. So it's cool. And then at the very bottom there, she has some notes on the sources. So she'll tell you, if she knows, where the different pieces from the images on the card have come from, like historically. That's a little bit more about where it comes from. So also her interpretations are fantastic. Like, this book is actually really well written. It sticks to, like I said, a Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. You'll recognize all the cards. It's certainly not a clone. She didn't make it look exactly like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but it does follow very closely, and her meanings follow that tradition also. What I love is that she didn't just re-spew the same old Rider-Waite-Smith information back at you. She put everything into her own words, into her own understanding of the tarot, and gives it to you that way. So it's a little new. It feels fresh. And then when you get into the minor arcana here, there really is almost the same amount of information. She gets still a full, you know, almost a full page of the image, which is great. And then she gives you the exact same thing, you know, the Two of Coins in your life. You have your interpretation, you have your notes on all the sources. And then her court cards are separated out in the back. And I actually like that she's done that because, get this, I'll show you when we get to the deck, but all the court cards are images of historic figures from the Victorian era. Like every single queen is Queen Victoria. There's one with Oscar Wilde on it. It's really neat. So she gives you a lot of history about who's in that court card and how, you know, an aspect of their life really does relate to that court card. It's very cool. This deck is so well done. And then in the very back here, she's got, where are they? There we go, some spreads. And they're very interesting. I haven't actually played around with any of them yet. One is called Victoria's Scepter. Oh, I think it looks like that one. Yeah, that is Victoria's Scepter. And then this one's Victoria's Chalice. There's a lot of cards in that spread. Was that 11 card spread? I'm gonna have to play around with these. And then she actually gives you an example of the spread. You know, she's actually done it and talks about it. And then an appendix. Yep, that's it. But look at that, it's a meaty book. What is that, like 200 something pages? 255, 260? And her name is Sarah of Ovenall. Oh my God, I'm so sorry when I butcher people's names. Okay, so that's the book. Dun 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 dun. Here's the deck. This is the bag that it comes with. Like I said, it's a thick navy blue velvety bag with these beautiful tassels. I'm definitely going to keep it in this bag. It's like all lined. Can you see that? It's gorgeous. I might go ahead and put one of my little pendants on there at some point if I find one that works real well. But this is what the backs of the cards look like. They are not actually reversible, but they're simple enough, in my opinion, that I can read my reversals no problem. Shit, I always do anyway. Even if they're completely not reversible, I just sort of look away. Let me do a little size comparison real quick for you, because these cards are rather large. I haven't actually held it up to my Mary L yet, but it feels about Mary L size to me. Here, I grab my Mary L deck. Let's see. Oh yeah, really close. There we go. It's actually, can you see that? It's a teeny bit more more narrow, but just a hair. And then it's a teeny bit taller. Sorry. Yeah, just ever so slightly. So if you were going to, did I pull the same card? Oh my God, that's so funny. My Mary L deck is not in order. But yeah, if you are someone who needed to trim your Mary L, if you have it, because it was too big, this card is definitely a little bit taller. It might give you the same problem. And you could totally trim it, I guess, the same way you would trim your Mary L. You would just, of course, lose the name of the card at the bottom. I would never trim my Mary L. I do have to, you know, finagle a little bit when I shuffle, but I've gotten used to it. I just love the black borders on the Mary L. And I sort of love the borders on this one too. It just makes it feel old. It has this really cool aged feel to it. Love. So anyway, that's the back. And here is what they look like. Aren't they just amazing? That's the Fool. Actually, what he's standing on too, if you read in her book, like I said, she tells you where all this stuff came from. This is like a blown up image of a crystal that he's sort of dancing and leaping off of. Yeah, these are all actual engravings too. If you like zoom in and look really closely at the cards, you can see every individual line. It's amazing. So this is your magician. He's got his alumnus get up there. And if you look down here, how cool is this? You have your 4 suits represented. And in this deck, get this, cups are mason jars, swords are guns, coins are pocket watches or clocks, and wands are like fountain pens. How perfect and apropos is that? Amazing. And it's numbered just like your traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, where strength is 8 and justice is 11. And as far as I can remember, all the names here are exactly the same too. Like this is the High Priestess, not the Popess or anything. So I mean, you can tell, you can see how really things do change. She doesn't have her two, her two towers or whatever. She doesn't have, water and the moon and all that. But if you look, it really, I think this would be very easy for anyone in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition to sort of get down with, because it really does, it's familiar. It follows that system. It definitely does. Okay, I actually really dig this Empress card. How cool is she? She's still a total, like, girly chick, but she's kind of badass. You can see the stars in her hair. I hope it's not too hard to make out the details in my camera, especially with the black and white. I personally have absolutely no problem reading with a black and white deck. I have, oh, Jesus, I have a few. Look at that Emperor. Cool is that? There's even like, there's diversity in this deck, which is something you certainly would not expect, at least I didn't, from a deck that has a Victorian theme, you know? I mean, there's not a ton, but there's definitely some. You'll see as we go through. Here's your Hierophant. Look at his keys up there. Like, they're literally right out of, like, an advertisement or a newspaper or something. There's your Lovers. So the black and white thing, yeah, I read a lot of other people's reviews on this deck, and a lot of people were sort of worried about the lack of color in this deck. You know, apparently it's something that a lot of people really do rely on quite heavily when you're reading tarot cards, the coloring and things, and I get that. You know, of course it becomes a part of your reading. But from what I could gather, the cards are descriptive and detailed enough that it didn't stand in anyone's way, you know? It didn't become an issue, the lack of color. This is one of my favorite cards. Look at Justice. Oh my God. That may be one of my favorite Justice cards of all time. Justice may be one of my favorite tarot cards, period. Oh, I just love her. There's your Hanged Man. So yeah, the few readings that I've done with this so far, I mean, it's certainly, I kind of knew that black and white wouldn't be an issue, but I really can't see it being much of an issue for anybody. Tell me if you guys have a hard time with the black and white decks. I'm curious. That's Temperance. Can you see what's going on there? There's like ocean waves and fiery crashing down sort of stuff. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, this one's hilarious. Look at your Devil. See, you can see it still looks like a devil, but he's like a clown, dude. Isn't that great? This deck is so freaking beautiful, guys. Look at that. Tower. There's something just utterly fascinating to me about the Victorian era in general. It's this interesting time in history where, you know, like old meets new, and people were utterly fascinated by the occult and all this new technology and industry, and yeah, it just comes crashing up against these sort of older religious beliefs. And I think that's why I'm even fascinated by the whole steampunk thing. You know, it captures this interesting time from the Victorian era. That's Judgment. Beautiful, right? I'm so glad this found its way to me. So that was the major arcana, and on into our minors. This is the Ace of Wands. All the aces have that big hand just holding a symbol of the suit. So it's very, very Rider-Waite-Smith in that way. There's also, how do I describe it? There's like this sense of almost whimsy and like a little bit of cheekiness maybe to this deck, but it's a smart sense of humor, you know. It never gets stupid, like even that Devil card, you know, with the clown on it. It's like, oh, that's an interesting choice, but it's still a smart choice. This deck it's delicate, it's grown up, it's elegant, but it definitely has that sort of fun, kind of cheeky side. but smart. Yeah, it's definitely a smart deck. Whoop. Here's your Six of Wands. See what I mean? Everything really, it relays back to Rider-Waite-Smith. Look, she's being attacked. She's got the higher ground. And your Seven of Wands. That's a woman there, by the way. Very cool. Look at this one. I absolutely adore this Eight of Wands. You can just feel the power and the movement there. Isn't that cool? And there's like a, I don't know, is it scaffolding or just the inside of an ornate building? It almost looks like a train station, but it's very detailed, the background. Here's your Nine of Wands. Has a steampunk feel to it, that card, doesn't it, with the clockwork? Isn't that great? The cardstock, by the way, is pretty decent. It's, you know, especially when cards get big, they can feel bendy. And these are very sturdy, and they're not super glossy. They're definitely more matte, but they have a nice sort of coating on them. All right, and here is our first court card. They are princesses, princes, kings, and queens. Like I said, every queen is an image of Queen Victoria, and then there's lots of other images of Queen Victoria at different stages of her life. This one happens to be one of her daughters, I think, Louise, I think is her name. And like I said, in the book, she really does go into how their life sort of relates back to that card. Here is just one of the coolest cards ever. If you are an Oscar Wilde fan and a tarot fan, this deck is definitely for you. There's our man. And the writing on the background there, can you see that? That is from De Profundis, you know, a letter that he wrote to Douglas from prison. I remember she said in the book too, this picture actually came from a review, I believe that was in the paper. The review is about Lady Windermere's fan. But yeah. Who doesn't love some Oscar Wilde? Oh, isn't that great? Love having that in my deck. I sort of did the same thing, right, with my the deck that I made when I put some of my favorite authors on there, because I felt like they represented the energy of that court card for me. Now, while I had a hard time working with the deck that I made so far, this really, it hasn't been an issue. I enjoy it. It doesn't take me out of it too much, you know. And then here's your Queen of Wands, Queen Victoria, a young Queen Victoria. This is from, I think, this is like a newly crowned Queen Victoria. Opening her first parliament, I think it said. That's what's happening there. She gets real specific in the book. It's fantastic. And then there is your King of Wands. Love this guy. I didn't really know too much about him. His name's Benjamin Disraeli. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But yeah, he's like a novelist and a politician. And the history on him is just very, very cool. He fits the card. And then see what I mean about all the aces. It's a close-up with the hand, you know, holding the suit symbol. And there's your mason jar. I love that we're so obsessed with mason jars again. It's so funny. There's your Two of Cups. How cool is that? Three of Cups. Three ladies celebrating, just so classic. Here's your Four of Cups. And your Five. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the look on her face. It's evocative. Is she losing her dress there? A little bit. There's your Six of Cups. So for a collage deck, right, doesn't it look utterly seamless? It reminds me of Cat Black's Golden Tarot in that way, where you just, you know, it looks like one seamless image. You literally, if you just are looking through and you didn't know it was a collage, you really probably wouldn't be able to tell that it is a collage. Very seamless. Isn't that a beautiful one? I really actually like this card a lot. The Eight of Cups, that is. Can you see that? She's like wandering up in the mountains. You don't see the moon in that picture, but, you know, it's still definitely that same feeling that you get from the Rider-Waite-Smith card. Here's your Nine of Cups. Again, a woman where you would see a man. There's a lot of that sort of switches happening. That one looks very similar, doesn't it? The Ten of Cups. That one makes me happy. Love it. And then some more card cards. This is Princess Mary, I think. Here's your Prince of Cups. This is, I believe, the future King Edward, one of Queen Victoria's eldest son. Look at me, I know so much Victorian history after this. There is Queen Victoria. Look at this, it's just so perfect for the Queen of Cups with the ocean. She's on a throne. So good. She's a little bit more mature here than she was in the Wands. And then this is her husband, Prince Albert, as the King of Cups. Isn't that great? The waves crashing behind. It's perfect. There is your Ace of Swords. I love that they're guns. I have a few decks where swords become guns, and I enjoy that. I think it's interesting. You sort of lose the cutting sort of aspect to it. But it really does modernize things. I think that's a cool switch to make. Here's your Three of Swords. This one really does differ, I guess, a bit. It's not that classic image of a heart being sort of stabbed, but it works. Can you see her down there? She's in some turmoil. She's in some pain. And the guns are arranged exactly the same way as the swords would be in the heart. I live right on a busy street, guys. I'm so sorry. I know you can hear the trucks going by. There's your Four of Swords. She's sleeping down there. There's your 5. And your 6. Look at that. Look at all that power. There's your 7 of Swords, your thief in the night. Look at him, he's up to no good. Cool, right? Like, it literally says right there, to be sold. He's stealing some guns. He looks like a cowboy to me. Oh, I love. So romantic, this period. There's something about it. Here's your 8 of Swords. She's blindfolded, and she's literally standing almost in a circle of guns, and it looks like there's even a prison bars sort of behind her too. I mean, they're gorgeous and ornate and filigreed. It might just be a gate or something, but it works. It gives you that feeling of being bound. There's your 9 of Swords. Oh, and your 10 of Swords. I thought he's being stabbed with guns. Yeah, whatever. That doesn't seem very likely. All right, and then into our beautiful court cards. This is your Princess of Swords, and that is a very young Queen Victoria. And then this has become one of my favorite cards. This is really cool. So this is your Prince of Swords. However, there's a woman on there. How cool is that? This is one of Queen Victoria's children. Her name's Alice. I think she was a duchess. And the history in the book on her I found utterly fascinating. She was sort of friends with Florence Nightingale and was an advocate of for nurses, and she set up like free hospitals for children and did all this amazing sort of social work. So yeah, as a former nurse myself, I found that one really, really cool. She's very active. And I love that, became the prince. There's even this eagle down here. Can you see that? Taking flight. How beautiful. Very cool. And then your Queen of Swords, of course, is Queen Victoria again. And this one's sort of sad. This is her standing at the coffin of her newly deceased husband, Prince Albert. It says like right up at the top too. There's these words right on the back, but the widowed queen sits alone. Oh, so sad. And then your King of Swords is William Gladstone. It's a great picture, right? I actually really like that she's kept the names of everything still. Even though it's guns, it's swords. Even though it's fountain pens, it's still wands. She maintained all the classic names of everything. And there's your ace again. Ace of coins. Clocks and pocket watches. How perfect is that? Such a great theme for a deck. Look at that. He's juggling his clocks. Your 3 of coins. They're coins, not pentacles though. Coins here. That one is so classic Rider-Waite-Smith, right? Look at the church and everything. Showing his work. Here's your 4 of coins. How cool is that? I love that image. The clocks are so detailed and so ornate. They're beautiful. That's your 5 of coins. Can you see that? They're sort of outside in the cold wearing tattered rags. There's your 6 of coins. Look at that face. That one's kind of creepy. They're actually, it's hard to see in the camera here. They're on a sled, it looks like. And it looks like she's giving coins or watches, I guess in this case, out to the poor, you know. So it's very similar in meaning and how it looks to the Rider-Waite-Smith. 7 of coins. All the clocks are displayed here in what looks like a flowering sort of bush almost. So you still get that feeling of growth or waiting for fruition, sort of. Your 8 of coins. Very familiar image, right? And again, it's a woman working. It's kind of a feminist deck. Friggin' love it. Here's your 9 of coins. And your 10 of coins. Isn't that beautiful? So, I mean, even though I got this deck used, I'm so lucky. Like, it's in really good shape. It's almost like new. There's a little bit of maybe aging on the sides, which is freaking cool. And on into our quartz. This is the Princess of Coins, and she is Queen Victoria's youngest daughter, Beatrice, I believe. Cool story in the book about her. Very interesting. She sort of served her mother well. Oh, I love this Prince of Coins. Isn't he cool looking? He's just got a great stash and beard. I love it. He is a grandson of Queen Victoria. George, he later became king. King George V, I believe. Is any Victorian historians out there watching right now? Don't judge. And there is your Queen of Coins, Queen Victoria again. God bless our queen. This one I remember came from an image from around the time of her Jubilee, it was called. Her 1887 Jubilee. And lastly, your King of Coins, and that is Albert again. Prince Consort Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. I don't know what royalty people are supposed to be called. We don't have that here. It is utterly fascinating, though. It really is. I enjoyed reading this book, and I've enjoyed working with this deck so far. It's fun. It's just a fun friggin' deck. Yeah, I sort of gotta shuffle it. I do have small hands. I can just make it. I do sort of the same thing with my Mary L. It just sort of is a little bit on the larger side, but still very doable. I can even overhand shuffle this way with it. Just gotta stretch out those hands a little. And this deck also does come with 2 extra, like those info cards, but what's really cool about them is, look, they're copies of other cards. So I got a copy of the Queen of Wands and the Magician. I'm not sure if it's always the same card you get on the back of the info cards, but how great is that? Little bookmarks or extra cards I can display. Love it. But yeah, that is the Victoria Regina Tarot. The book, the deck, the beautiful bag you get with it, if you're able to find it. Maybe you can find one that comes with a box. Set yourself up with some eBay notifications for Victoria Regina Tarot. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That's the Victoria Regina Tarot. I'll catch you next time. Bye!